Hello, and welcome to Film Slam Stream's post-film conversation for Joe Buffalo. My name is Eric Siler. I'm a professor of film, media arts, and communications, as well as moderator for this conversation. We are very pleased to be joined by two people from Joe Buffalo. First of all, we have Joe Buffalo himself, who has joined us. He's a descendant of the chief pound maker. Joe is also from Alberta, and is also a member of the Samson Cree Nation. He's a residential school survivor. If you don't know much about residential school, I encourage you to research that and look that up and learn more about it. Residential schools were generally a government funding institution that is now recognized as a form of genocide. But however, skateboarding has helped Joe overcome this trauma and through adversity throughout his life. And he keeps himself busy and challenged through skateboarding now that he's a pro skateboarder. And Joe's story was used to inspire a new generation of Indigenous skateboarders. Hello, Joe, and welcome.
Hello, Eric. Thanks for having me.
It's great to have you. Next, we had the director of Joe Buffalo, Amir Chebib, I'm sorry. He's a Syrian/Canadian filmmaker who began making videos while growing up and skateboarding in the Middle East. He has made various award-winning short films and commercials, as well as a feature documentary about 3 Syrian musicians who turned refugees. Hello, Amir, and welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
It's so good to have both of you here. Now, you know, the age-old question, what came first, the chicken or the egg? Whose idea was it first? Joe, did you find Amar? Amar, did you find Joe? How did this?
Amar approached me, and it was shortly after I was given my pro model through Colonialism Skateboards that he had confronted me and through social media and said, yeah, I don't know if you remember, but back in 05, we skated together in Montreal at a park called Peace Park. And so, yeah, I just remember that he was from Dubai and that he was there with a crew and they were English speakers. So, you know, you just kind of resonate towards English speakers in Quebec because, yeah, it's just how it is. And so, yeah, the rest is history.
So, Amar, well, what led you to seeking out Joe Buffalo? There are tons of skateboarders out there. What was it about him that you wanted to tell a story?
You have lots of skateboarders, but not like Joe though. I guess I saw an article or something shared on social media about Joe turning professional and how he was a residential school survivor, and I immediately clicked. I remembered him from when we used to skate together in Montreal, but I didn't know that he was a residential school survivor at the time because Joe didn't talk about it at all from my understanding. So I just thought it was incredible, like how all the obstacles he had to overcome to get where he is now. And, you know, Joe's a pretty well-known skateboarder, especially across Canada. He's kind of like a legend here. So yeah, I was just kind of inspired by him and the story, and we reconnected, and then we kind of just started talking, and the idea for a film came up, and it just kind of happened organically like that.
Now, Joe, I know you've been through a life with challenges. Were you looking to tell your story to inspire others, or is this something that you just, want to take advantage of?
Well, I wasn't looking really to inspire people because I was just kind of on my own healing path. You know what I mean? I was taking the steps towards healing because I had a long history of alcohol and drug abuse, that I was taking out my unresolved trauma, childhood trauma out on the alcohol and drugs. So I wasn't acknowledging what was really bothering me. And so it wasn't until I actually had to sober up and take the steps towards healing that when Amar even approached me, I was just like, whoa, this guy, you know what I mean? I was in survival mode that I was just blown away by the fact that he wanted to work on me on such a a film of such magnitude, you know. So of course I was a little apprehensive because I didn't really trust directors to begin with, and I was so new to film and everything. So I was just, like, by sobering up and allowing, my survival mode and my, you know what I mean, allowing myself to just fully trust somebody with my, especially something like my story, wasn't easy. So that proved to be, yeah, that proved to be challenging in its own. So I mean, it actually just happened, like, because I was already doing work, and I was already inspiring people unknowingly, that, like, it wasn't until people started hitting me up and saying, "Oh, man, remember that one time you were, you kind of did this one thing, and, like, all you did was just told me some advice, and I fully changed this dude's life." And I was just like, whoa. So, when you hear these things as you're just doing your day to day, you're like, wow, this guy, like, was on the street, and now he, like, has his family back to get in his life, and he's just, like, has it together. You know what I mean? So I was inspiring people, and I didn't even know it. I was just being like, well, whatever, just doing my thing. And so, yeah, it feels good to know that I have a film that's able to just, like, do it on such a broader scale. It feels really good.
I'm glad that you were open to that. Amar, the style in which you chose to tell the story, Joe, told the story himself. Why did you choose that style? You could have had a narrator. You could have done all recreations, just use footage from events. Why did you choose the style?
Well, I think like part of it is taking inspiration from the story and Joe himself, and then a part of it is I like to push, like, documentary in a more, like, narrative direction into generally speaking. But I guess also Joe is just, like, has a commanding personality and voice, and so after, like, through talking to him, I think it was just clear that, like, how his voice needed to be, like, front and center in all of this, and both because of, like, from a filmmaking perspective, but also I think it's his story as well, and so obviously he's going to be the one that's kind of front and center, talking about it. But I think also the fact that Joe is an actor as well, like, helped us a lot in, like, leaning on doing more recreations in the film than a lot of other more traditional docs. He's there's a couple of moments in the film where he goes to kind of a very vulnerable place, and which obviously took a lot of courage, and not everyone would be able to do something like that. So that's the other thing. And then I guess also, like, a lot of the film took place in the past, so rather than just, like, relying all on archival footage, or we wanted to do something that was more cinematic and immersive. So those are some of the things that made us decide to do that. And I should mention, like, Liam, who was our cinematographer, very, very gifted, talented cinematographer, who's also known Joe longer than I have. I've known him for 26 years. Was instrumental in kind of shaping the visual aesthetic of the film, and was also a skate filmer. So just it's kind of just like all these elements just came together, where it just became clear, like, that this was the way to tell the story.
Great style, great way to really tell the story. I just want to remind everyone, we're talking to the director of Joe Buffalo, Amar Chebib, and also the subject of Joe Buffalo himself. If you have questions, please put them in the Q&A portal, and we'll get to them as time allows. Now, Joe, you said you inspired others, with your story and so forth, but how has this film helped you? Because you had to relive some dark moments in your life. Can you talk a little bit about how this film may have helped you?
Yeah, I mean, just, like, because again, I was so fresh into my sobriety, that, like, just gaining trust and having to build trust especially being, having not like telling the story and just building trust was huge. And also, sorry, what was the question?
How has this film helped you personally?
Yeah. I mean, it's just like therapy, you know what I mean? The more the more times I repeat these stories that are often pretty traumatizing, the more strength I get, and I feel it in my chest. And every time I speak, I just develop like these strengths that I don't, you know what I mean? They were always there. I just never really like touched them. You know what I mean? I never really like, I would just kind of just poke them and be like, oh, you know what I mean? And never really like trusted enough, you know what I mean? To speak on them. So, I mean, obviously the more I repeat these stories, the more strength I get. And so, yeah, it's definitely helps with my healing path, to be able to share this.
It does. It does. Now, Amar, you're a skateboarder yourself. Um, do you and Joe keep in touch since this film at all? And do you two skate together at all?
Well, I was a skateboarder. Like I haven't skated in a while. But yeah, I mean, I consider Joe a friend of mine now. So we see each other from time to time still. And obviously with the rollout of the of of the uh, of the film itself, we're doing Q&As and talking about things, and so.
Right. Any plans to make a follow-up of this documentary?
Not at the moment. Not at the moment. I think that there's this, we're kind of just like, this film has got a good amount of momentum right now, and we're just kind of like focusing on seeing how far we can take this, as far as it can go first. Yeah.
See. Now, Joe, I know you said you inspired others. Um, what has this meant to, I guess, the other people who may have seen this film who may have been in residential schools? Because I have to be honest, I didn't know about the residential schools until I saw this documentary. But obviously, it's well known to a good portion of the Canadian population and others too. So, has someone come up to you from a residential school and mentioned something about this documentary?
No,
Yeah.
no, nobody's come up and said anything. I don't know. The history books have been revised to cover up the criminal activity that the government's done to my people, and also in the United States as well, which is why you guys, in the US haven't heard much of it, because it's been covered up so well, you know what I mean? That up here in Canada, you know what I mean? We got people like all my brothers and sisters went, and my grandparents and my mom and dad, and it just seemed normal, you know what I mean? So long as we could just air out like the colonialism, and that show that good things can come from this. It's not all bad. We're not all out on the streets drinking and being, you know what I mean? How society paints us out to be, you know what I mean? So we're out here getting ours just as much as the next person. And just so happens that I went to an institution that was designed to kill us, you know what I mean? To be able to rise from something like that, it means a lot to me, and I want to be able to share that message of hope and healing to everyone out there, you know what I mean? That good can come from this.
Mm-hmm. Good can come out of dark situations. Before I let you two go, Amar, is there any information in the film that we didn't see that you may have left out?
Sure. I mean, there's lots. Sure. I mean, Joe's, just like any film, like you have to choose what you say and what you don't say, in order to strengthen the message. Because if you try to say too much, you just kind of dilute everything, and it weakens it, right? So, yeah, I mean, I think Joe's kind of one of the other things that Joe's also an accomplished was a hockey player as well, and we decided not to put that in the film because it was just, we wanted to focus on skateboarding. And I mean, we didn't go too much into the history of residential schools as well, so I think maybe that's more the relevant thing to talk about, which is like the fact that, you know, at one point I think the, you know, mortality rate was something like 50% for in the early 20th century for kids dying of tuberculosis and stuff, and because they were just so poorly funded. And there's just like, there's a lot of horrible stuff that happened at these schools that we didn't go into the details of in the film, but more just kind of alluded to. So for anyone that wants to learn about that, you know, there's, if you look and actually search, the information is out there. Specifically, you could go to Truth and Reconciliation Commission in Canada, and they did like this whole deep dive study on the history and stuff, and all that info is out there for people that are interested to learn more. And I should say that even the Canadian system was modeled specifically on an American school called the Carlisle Industrial School in Pennsylvania. That was kind of like a big one, and then Canada got the idea, like, oh, we should do that too. And so it's more talked about in Canada, but it existed in the US, and as Joe talked about, other places too, like, you know, Australia, I think, had their own system, and other places. So yeah, that's kind of all I'll say about that.
All right. So in wrapping up, Joe, what's next for you in terms of you know, the future for your life? Are you planning to do any more acting? You still skateboarding, enter any tournaments?
Yes, I have. I started a nonprofit called Nation Skate Youth, and what we do is we go from Indigenous communities to Indigenous communities, and we empower the youth through the act of skateboarding. And so, yeah, that's pretty much, that Nation Skate Youth is pretty much grown legs and it's doing its thing. So that's pretty amazing. And on top of that, I have a bunch of other films, some movies, features that are coming up that are pretty exciting. I can't go into too much detail about, but yeah, I got some big things coming up you're going to hear more of.
All right, great. And well, what about skating? Are you entering any tournaments, or what's on the horizon for that?
No tournaments for this guy. I have a video part that I'm working on that I'm going to be releasing soon. It's just 44-year-old guy jumping around, you know. Yeah, trying to just regurgitating all my old tricks and putting it with a new song, you know what I mean? Pretty much.
Well, I mean, age is just a number. I mean, here in the States, we have Tom Brady, who's that age, an American football player. He's still at it, so must be something.
Yeah, but he's white. No, I'm just kidding.
But I mean, that doesn't matter. It's just still an age, and you know, that shows that you're taking care of yourself. And
I got many more touchdowns left in me.
Yes, absolutely, and that's what we want to see. We'll want to see many more. Hopefully, you know, into your late 40s and beyond.
Yes.
So, Amar, what about you? What's next for you?
Yeah, I have a couple of projects that I'm working on. Yeah, again, can't go into too much detail on it, but yeah, working on a couple other short projects and working on a script for something narrative, and yeah, and like doing some. I also do commercials and brand work, so I'm kind of focusing on that a little bit, trying to recoup some of all the time that I also invested in this and other projects and stuff that obviously don't pay as well, but are all, you know, that's what I live for. So telling these kind of passion projects that are meaningful. So so yeah, couple exciting things in the pipeline, but nothing concrete I can shout out on the megaphone, just not quite yet.
All right, but you said the key word passion project, and it definitely showed the passion in telling this story and having Joe share his passion as well too. Last question for the both of you. I'll start with you, Amar, to answer this first. What's the one thing you want people to get out of this film? If they sat down, watched this film, and after it's over with, what would you want them to get out of it?
I'll let Joe take this one first, and I'll pick up the pieces if there's anything. Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, can you say that again? The question?
What do you want people to get out of this film? They've watched it. After it's over with, what do you want them to walk away with?
Yeah, I just want to be able to prove to, just to show that just because the government's programmed us to self-terminate doesn't mean we have to go ahead and do it. You know what I mean? And that if I could pass on any messages of hope and healing, and then yeah, job well done.
Okay, hope and healing. All right, great. What about you, Amar, as a filmmaker? What do you want people to get from this film?
Yeah, I want people to be inspired by Joe's story, that anything's possible. If and to highlight Joe's resiliency and others like him, their resiliency, and also and to inspire people to learn more about the history, and that these things don't just like slide under the rug. They're still very much with us, and people are living with trauma, and that's not something that's easily just like that you can easily just like, okay, I'm gonna get over it. It doesn't work like that. And I think Joe will be the first person to tell you it's like a serious issues that we have to atone for, I think, collectively as a society. And I think.
Oh, good. I think you might have started like a new field, Omar, documentary therapy. You have music therapy, art therapy. So maybe something along that line. So, but I thank you both for joining us today and for sharing with us a little bit of your time, and more importantly, the story with an important message. We were pleased to have with us Amar Chebib, the director, and Joe Buffalo, the subject. Thank you both.
Thanks for having us.
Amar, can you take a photo?
Oh yeah, let me take a snapshot real quick.
Okay, sure, I'll pose.
All right.
Wicked.
Okay.
Awesome. Thanks for having us, Eric.
Sure. Thank you. I wish you both the best and everything. I hope to see you again. And I'd like to thank our audience for joining us for this important and invigorating conversation. For more information about the current 45th Cleveland International Film Festival or any upcoming film festivals, please visit clevelandfilm.org. I'm Eric Siler. Thank you.